Welcome back to my channel. They said Meri Brown had finally let go, that she walked away quietly, without a fight. But what if I told you she never truly left? What if I told you the real war didn't begin until Robyn made one fatal mistake? She rewrote the past, and in doing so, she woke a sleeping storm. The gavel hadn't even fallen yet, but the silence in that courtroom was deafening. 10 long months had passed since Meri walked away from Kody Brown, or so the world thought. We saw the footage, the tears, the suitcase, the bittersweet smile as she whispered words like, "new beginnings." But behind that quiet farewell, something darker was brewing. It began the day Robyn laughed during a podcast interview, the day she called Meri a symbolic wife. She claimed Kody and Meri were over long before she ever entered the picture. She chuckled, brushed it off, and moved on. But Meri didn't. Because that laugh, that single careless moment, was the spark that ignited a lawsuit. 2 weeks later, in the parking lot of a Flagstaff grocery store, Robyn was handed an envelope. She assumed it was another hate letter from fans. It wasn't. It was a court summons. Meri was suing Robyn Brown for defamation, emotional distress, interference in a spiritual contract, and most shockingly, for coercing Kody into rewriting the Brown family's legacy. Kody didn't show up. He didn't even make a statement. And that silence, it spoke volumes. Because while Robyn hid behind tears and excuses, Meri was done playing the role of the loyal wife. This time, she walked into court armed, with lawyers, with evidence, and with 17 years of receipts. Old TLC contracts, notarized affidavits, emails, proof that she wasn't just a wife, she was a stakeholder. Across the courtroom, Robyn sat frozen, clutching her child's baby blanket like a lifeline. Her legal team looked nervous, because Meri hadn't just sued. She'd come prepared to burn down the whole illusion. The judge, calm and stern, adjusted her glasses. "Ms. Brown," she said, not bothering to specify which one. "We're here for evidence, not emotion. But with this family, emotion is the evidence." Meri's lawyer stood. His voice was steady. "Your Honor, this case isn't about jealousy. It's about erasure. One woman erased another from her story, and from her rights." Christine and Janelle sat behind Meri, not as witnesses, not yet, but as silent allies. They didn't need to speak. Their presence was its own declaration. They were done protecting lies. Then came the first shock. Meri's attorney handed the judge a red folder, sealed since 2010. Inside, the original TLC contract, a clause, naming Meri as a primary family stakeholder, financially and legally equal to Kody. But by 2018, that clause was gone. And guess who had advised the family to rewrite the language? Robyn. The courtroom murmured. Robyn's lawyers objected, but the damage was done. And still, no sign of Kody. Then Meri whispered something to her lawyer. He nodded, retrieved another envelope, and handed it to the judge. Inside, a notarized statement from a former TLC showrunner. It claimed Robyn personally requested that Meri's screen time be cut, over and over again. The reason? Narrative cohesion. That wasn't cohesion. That was control. Outside the courthouse, fans were split. Signs reading, "Justice for Meri," stood beside others defending Robyn. But inside, none of that mattered, because this was no longer about popularity. This was about proof. The judge sighed, then spoke carefully. "Due to the evidence presented today, I am unsealing the original 2010 contract for review." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Because once that document was public, it wouldn't just affect Meri and Robyn. It would shake the entire Brown family empire. Christine leaned toward Janelle and whispered, "This is just the beginning." They thought Meri had left quietly. But the truth? She'd been building her case the whole time. The judge called recess. But just as everyone began to stand, the courtroom clerk rushed forward. "Your Honor," she said breathlessly, "Ms. Brown's legal team just submitted a new file, video evidence, dated 2017. Title, Robyn Unfiltered." The judge froze. Robyn went pale. Meri turned just once, and that look in her eyes wasn't anger. It was quiet victory. Because sometimes the truth doesn't need to shout. It only needs to play. And as the courtroom lights dimmed and the screen flickered, to life, Robyn's own voice echoed through the speakers, saying something no one in that room, or in the entire SisterWives world, ever expected her to admit. This wasn't about being the loudest voice in the room anymore. This was about being the last one standing. The judge re-entered the courtroom, her expression unreadable, the weight of history practically hanging in the air. The audience hushed. Cameras clicked once and fell silent. Court will now review evidence item 27A, she announced. A recorded video clip submitted by the plaintiff's counsel labeled Robyn Unfiltered. This footage has been verified as authentic and unedited. The lights dimmed. The hum of the projector filled the room. And then the screen flickered to life. There she was, Robyn Brown, sitting in her Flagstaff backyard, the sun glowing behind her, a Diet Coke sweating in her hand. It was an ordinary moment, casual, relaxed, the kind of footage TLC never aired. But then came the words. If Meri wants to pretend she still matters, Robyn laughed softly, that's her business. But let's not lie. She hasn't mattered to Kody in years. He tolerates her. It's sad. A soundless gasp rippled through the courtroom. Every syllable hung in the air like broken glass. It was Robyn's voice, Robyn's face. Her laughter, unfiltered, unedited, undeniable. When you speak off camera, you think the world won't hear. But the truth always finds a way to record itself. The room froze, not a cough, not a whisper. The only sound was the faint creak of a chair as someone shifted in disbelief. Robyn's complexion drained of color. She slumped back, trembling. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering furiously, but before he could rise, the judge lifted her hand. The defense will have an opportunity to respond, she said sternly, but this court acknowledges that the statement shown directly contradicts the public narrative previously presented by the defendant. And just like that, everything changed. The carefully polished image of Saint Robyn, the compassionate wife, the peacemaker, the tearful victim, shattered under the unforgiving glare of courtroom playback. This wasn't the Robyn fans saw on TV. This was the other version, the one that smiled when others cried. Her lawyer scrambled to regain control. Your Honor, we request that the court consider the context of the clip, he argued. This was a private, off-camera venting moment. It was never intended for broadcast or legal scrutiny. But that was exactly the problem. This entire case was about what wasn't meant to be seen, and how those hidden moments shaped everything. Meri's attorney didn't flinch. He stepped forward, his tone sharp but calm. Private or not, Your Honor, intent is the issue. The defendant's words showed deliberate effort to invalidate, dismiss, and manipulate how Meri Brown was perceived, not just by her family, but by millions of viewers. And then, he dropped the next bombshell. He held up a stack of printed screenshots, each one stamped and verified. Your Honor, we also submit into evidence private text messages between Ms. Robyn Brown and a TLC producer, dated January 2021. Robyn's head snapped up. In those texts, she'd allegedly discussed minimizing Meri's screen time and referred to her as dead weight to the storyline. Gasps echoed through the gallery. Robyn's lawyer shot to his feet. Objection! We haven't seen these before. But the judge's expression didn't waver. They were submitted under sealed timestamp during discovery, she replied. Both production and internal metadata have verified authenticity. Continue, counselor. Behind every polished smile is a message you were never supposed to read. Meri sat still, the calm unblinking, but her knuckles whitened against the table. This wasn't revenge. This was survival. The texts weren't gossip. They were strategy. In message after message, Robyn allegedly pitched episode concepts that centered on her children, her marriage, her emotional growth. There was no mention of Meri, not once. And then came the most damning line of all, one highlighted in yellow. If Meri's still around by next season, Robyn wrote, let's focus on her healing arc away from the family. Maybe move her out of frame. Not move her forward. Not move her on. Move her out. The gallery erupted in whispers. Some people looked horrified, others unsurprised. Because deep down, many had suspected favoritism for years. But this wasn't favoritism. This was erasure. The judge's gavel struck once. Order. We will now allow the defendant a brief rebuttal. Robyn rose on shaking legs. Her voice trembled. I was under pressure, she said, tears forming. From fans, from producers, from Kody. I didn't mean to hurt her. I never wanted to erase Meri. I just wanted a life that worked. But when a life that works comes at someone else's destruction, is it still worth defending? Meri's lawyer stepped forward again, voice low but piercing. We understand the pressures of television, Your Honor, but this isn't about editing choices. This is about conscious, repeated attempts to manipulate public perception and marginalize the plaintiff's presence in a decades-long marital and business partnership. And just when the tension seemed unbearable, the court allowed a character witness. A voice came over the speakerphone, distorted slightly, anonymous by court order. I was an assistant producer on SisterWives, the witness said. Robyn was always the most involved behind the scenes. She'd meet with producers privately. She'd request cuts. She once joked that Meri's breakdowns were bad optics. She said, "People don't want to see that. They want to see hope. And I'm the hope." The quote hit like a gunshot. The gallery fell into stunned silence. Because this wasn't just pride. It wasn't even jealousy. It was control. And for the first time, Robyn Brown, the woman who once held all the power, realized that the cameras she had used for her story were now capturing her downfall. This wasn't about who shouted the loudest anymore. It was about who would still be standing when the truth finished burning everything down. The judge leaned forward, eyes sharp, voice cutting through the silence. "Ms. Brown," she said evenly, "is there truth to that statement?" Robyn didn't move, didn't blink, didn't speak. But sometimes silence is the answer. The tension stretched thin enough to snap. And then Meri stood. Her lawyer glanced up, surprised, but she didn't wait for permission. "Your Honor," she said, voice steady but trembling at the edges, "I'd like to speak for myself." The judge nodded once. "Proceed, Ms. Brown." Meri turned to face Robyn, not with fury, not with vengeance, but with the kind of heartbreak that only years of silence can build. "I loved Kody when we had nothing," she began softly. "When we were sharing borrowed furniture and chasing borrowed dreams. I loved this family when it was just an idea, when faith was enough to keep us fed." Her voice wavered, but she didn't break. "I gave up my legal marriage so Robyn could be protected. I told myself it was God's will. But what hurts the most isn't that Kody stopped loving me." Her eyes lifted, locked onto Robyn's trembling face. "It's that you decided I didn't matter." A murmur swept through the courtroom. Cameras clicked. Even the judge looked shaken. Meri continued, stronger now. "I watched you replace me while pretending to support me. You cried on camera but laughed behind closed doors. You told my story for me, and now I'm here to take it back. There is no pain greater than watching someone rewrite your ending while you're still living it." The gallery was dead silent. Even the air felt heavy. And that's when Robyn broke. Tears streaked down her face, her voice cracking through sobs. "I didn't know what else to do," she cried. "Kody stopped talking to her. I just stepped in. I didn't push her out." He walked away. But the courtroom wasn't about Kody right now. It was about her and the choices she made with her words, her texts, her silence. And as if the universe demanded a final twist, the heavy courtroom door creaked open. Every head turned. In walked Kody Brown. Late, sunglasses on. Expression unreadable. The air shifted. Even Robyn stiffened. The judge didn't miss a beat. "Mr. Brown," she said flatly, "you are scheduled to testify in the next session. Given the timeline, you may be seated." Kody nodded once, silent, awkward. He took a seat behind Robyn, never once looking at Meri. But his silence screamed louder than any defense ever could. The tension was suffocating. Meri's lawyer stood again. "Your Honor," he said carefully, "we have one final item for the record before recess." He held up a new document, emails. "Between Ms. Robyn Brown and a Flagstaff real estate agent," he said. "These outline a property consolidation plan that excludes both Meri Brown and Janelle Brown entirely." The judge's brows knit together. "And these emails are dated 2019, Your Honor." A ripple of shock spread through the gallery. Because the family's supposed unity didn't collapse publicly until 2022. Meaning, this separation wasn't spontaneous. It was orchestrated. The judge sighed heavily, rubbing her temple. "This court will recess until tomorrow at 10 a.m., she declared. "We will begin with Mr. Brown's testimony." But before she rose, she added one more line. Quiet, almost weary, yet deadly serious. "Let the record show that the defendant's influence on both narrative and public identity has now been materially supported. If these patterns continue, the court may explore punitive measures beyond emotional damages. The room went electric. You could almost feel the current of realization run through every spectator, every journalist, every whispering fan. And then, just as she was about to dismiss the room, the judge paused. "Oh, one more thing," she said. "We will reopen the sealed estate file as requested by the plaintiff. Financial audits may be necessary." A visible shiver ran down Robyn's face. Because the estate wasn't just property, it was legacy. And the one thing she'd fought to control might now become the very thing that destroyed her. Meri gathered her files and walked toward the door. Camera crews swarmed. Reporters shouted over one another, but she didn't stop, until one voice called out above the rest, "Is it true you have more videos, Meri?" She stopped, turned, and smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. Kody Brown always hated being questioned. On television, he masked it with humor, with sarcasm, with that signature grin. But this wasn't TLC anymore. This was federal lighting. Truth and oxygen inescapable. And then the clerk's voice broke through the tension. "Kody Wayne Brown, please take the stand." The room erupted into murmurs. Christine leaned forward. Janelle crossed her arms. Robyn reached for his hand as he passed, but he didn't take it. He stepped into the witness box, tugging at his blazer, avoiding every familiar eye in the room. "Raise your right hand," the clerk said. "Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" Kody hesitated, just for a moment too long. "I do," he muttered. He sat, shifted, tugged at his collar again. Meri's lawyer approached. "Mr. Brown," he began, voice steady, "how long were you in a spiritual marriage with Meri Brown?" 25 years. "Something like that," Kody said, shrugging. "You don't know the exact year?" "There was no start date. It was spiritual," he replied, impatience creeping into his tone. "But you were legally married to her?" Kody exhaled hard. "Yeah, until we divorced. So I could adopt Robyn's kids. Everyone knows that." "Did you consult Meri before doing that?" For the first time in days, Kody looked directly at Meri. Something flickered behind his eyes. Guilt, maybe recognition. "She agreed," he said quietly. Then after a pause, he added, "Eventually." Then after a pause, he added, "Eventually." When a man says eventually, what he really means is after I wore her down. That single word rippled through the courtroom like a confession disguised as a shrug. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. They'd seen this version of Kody Brown before, evasive, polished, and forever playing the victim of his own decisions. But Meri's attorney wasn't here to entertain a performance. He was here to dismantle it, line by line, lie by lie. "Let's talk about financial distribution," he began, voice sharp enough to cut through the tension. "Was Meri entitled to any portion of the Brown family trust?" Kody blinked, fumbling. We never had that written out. It was more understood. So she wasn't entitled to anything formally? No, yes, we treated everything as joint," he stammered, his voice wobbling under the weight of his own contradictions. The attorney leaned forward. "And yet, in 2018, you and Robyn restructured that very trust, correct?" "That was a family decision," Kody insisted. "Then why?" the attorney pressed. "Were Janelle and Meri not invited to that meeting?" The silence was surgical, the kind that cuts deeper than words ever could. I don't remember the details," Kody muttered. "Would seeing the email chain help?" The lawyer asked coldly. The courtroom lights dimmed as the projector came to life behind the judge. An email appeared. Subject line, Brown Family Trust Revision Meeting. 2 names. 2 attachments. Kody and Robyn Brown. No Meri, no Janelle. The judge's expression tightened. "Mr. Brown, were you aware that this document excluded 2 of your wives?" Kody swallowed hard. "Robyn handles most of the paperwork. I trust her judgment." The attorney smiled faintly. "When trust becomes your shield, Mr. Brown, it often hides the betrayal it's meant to protect." Meri didn't move. Janelle blinked slowly. Christine mouthed one silent word. "Wow." Then came the real blow. "In this restructuring," the attorney continued, 82% of the estate was reassigned to Robyn Brown. The rest was split between legal expenses and a Flagstaff development fund. Why was Meri not allocated anything? "She wasn't living on the property," Kody snapped. "She was renting." "I gave her options," the lawyer fired back instantly. "But you didn't give her equity." Kody's jaw tightened as the judge raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. The attorney lowered his tone. Mr. Brown, excluding Meri from the trust wasn't just cruel. It violated the original TLC contract your family signed in 2010. I didn't read the contract, Kody muttered. And yet, the lawyer said with icy calm, you were the highest paid cast member. That was the network's decision. But who negotiated the deal? Kody's lips parted. No sound came out. The silence was deafening. Robyn's hand twitched nervously. Meri looked straight at him, not with hatred, but with something far worse, understanding. Then, the attorney unfolded a worn letter and placed it before the judge. Dated December 2021, he said. Written by Mrs. Meri Brown. The judge nodded, and the letter was read aloud. Meri's voice cracked through every word. If I've been replaced, tell me. If I've been removed, show me the door. But don't keep me here as a shadow. And Kody's reply, a single text. You're free to stay, as long as you don't expect anything from me. The words echoed off the marble walls. The courtroom fell silent. Even the judge looked shaken. Sometimes betrayal doesn't scream. Sometimes it whispers, and the whisper cuts deeper than any shout ever could. I was just trying to be honest, Kody muttered. No, the lawyer replied coldly. You were trying to remove liability. Then came the final file. A printed bank transaction, $25,000 transferred from the family account to Robyn's personal LLC just 3 weeks after the trust restructuring. Can you explain this payment? It was for house expenses, Kody said weakly. It's labeled as contractual exit clearance. Can you tell the court who exited? No answer. Robyn's hands shook. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Brown, was this payment connected to Meri's removal from future earnings? I didn't want a war, Kody said softly. I just wanted peace. The lawyer's eyes narrowed. You bought peace, Mr. Brown. But silence, once paid for, always demands interest. The judge's gavel struck once. Recess 20 minutes. The press outside erupted like a storm. Headlines flashed within minutes. $25K paid to Robyn after Meri's exit. Kody Brown under oath. Silence costs more than truth. Outside, Robyn cornered Kody, hissing under her breath. I told you this would come back. You should have deleted those emails. Kody's face darkened. We were protecting the family. No, she snapped, you were protecting your image. And Meri... She walked past them both, out into the Arizona sunlight. No cameras. No producers. Just herself. She wasn't chasing justice anymore. She was ending a pattern. Because if Robyn could manipulate a narrative and Kody could manipulate a contract, then Meri could manipulate the truth into power. And when a woman reclaims power, it becomes louder than any edit ever aired. Back inside, the judge's gavel echoed again. Mr. Brown, she said firmly, your testimony has revealed serious evidence of estate mismanagement, potential marital fraud, and unilateral control over a multi-party trust. You will return for further questioning. Court is adjourned. Kody rose, brushing past Meri. She didn't even look up, just whispered, You didn't lose me, Kody. You threw me away and called it sacrifice. The bailiff closed the courtroom doors. The air inside turned thick, electric. Christine's phone buzzed. She glanced down, her eyes widening. She turned to Meri and whispered one name, Janelle. The energy in the room shifted. The judge, usually stoic, looked sharper, more alert, as if she too sensed what was coming. At exactly 10:01 a.m., the courtroom doors shut again. Meri's lawyer stood. Your Honor, before cross-examination, we'd like to present one final piece of evidence. The bailiff wheeled in an old black drive box. Analog, dusty, untouched for years. This, the lawyer said, is a previously unreleased production tape from 2015, marked cut due to legal sensitivity by the network. Recovered under subpoena. Robyn's lawyer leapt up. Objection. Overruled, the judge said. Play the tape. The lights dimmed. The screen flickered. A dimly lit living room appeared. Off-camera voices. A clapperboard. Then Robyn's voice filled the room. I don't care what she thinks. I don't trust her. I don't want her in our family's future. She ruins everything. A pause. Then Kody's voice. Cold, unbothered. We'll get through this season. After that, she's gone. Robyn laughed. The kind of laugh that doesn't belong in a sacred space. I already told the producers. I said, if she stays, I walk. They'll pick me. The tape cut to black. No one spoke. No one moved. Sometimes the footage they don't air says more than 1,000 episodes ever could. And in that moment, the world saw them for what they truly were. not a family, but a script written in betrayal and sealed with silence. Today we enter the moment the courtroom stopped breathing. Robyn's hands shot to her face as the audio echoed through the speakers. I'm the one people connect with. I'm the one they feel sorry for. If Meri wants sympathy, she should stop being so stiff. The audience doesn't want trauma, they want love. And that's me. The words were venom disguised as charm. The judge raised a single hand, pressing pause. The image froze mid-frame, Robyn's face caught in half light, half shadow, smiling like the truth itself had finally caught her in motion. Is that your voice, Ms. Brown? The judge asked, her tone flat, unblinking. Robyn blinked, her lips trembling. I didn't know they were rolling. It was out of context. The judge leaned forward. Is that your voice? A pause that could split glass. Yes. And with that single word, the entire courtroom changed temperature. The shift was almost physical. You could feel it ripple through the gallery. Christine leaned forward, gripping the bench so tightly her knuckles whitened. Janelle didn't blink once. Even Kody looked suddenly small, slumped, as though the truth had finally found the cracks in his armor. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't rivalry. This was exposure. The mask of sisterhood had fallen away, and what remained was raw, unapologetic ambition. Robyn's desire to be loved more, seen more, believed more. She stood trembling, voice breaking. I didn't mean it like that. Sit down, the judge snapped, voice sharp as a gavel strike. One more outburst and you'll be removed from this courtroom. Robyn sank into her chair, her face red, her lips quivering. Meri never turned toward her, not once. Her eyes stayed fixed on the screen, watching her own erasure play out in HD clarity. This wasn't gossip. It wasn't rumor. It was proof. Her own sister-wife had conspired to silence her. The room was heavy with disbelief when Kody muttered, barely audible, Meri, I didn't know. Meri turned to him, her expression carved from stone. You knew, she whispered. Maybe not her words, but you knew. You can't claim ignorance when you were living inside the silence she created. The judge turned to Meri's lawyer. Do you have corroboration for this video? Yes, Your Honor, the lawyer replied, sliding another document across the table. An affidavit from the assistant editor confirming authenticity. It was removed from production at Robyn Brown's request. He paused, meeting the judge's gaze. The word she used was ultimatum. The air cracked. Robyn's head dropped into her hands. But it wasn't over. Another envelope was produced. This one contained internal emails between Robyn and the network's legal team, demanding that scenes of Meri's mental breakdown be softened, and any footage of conflict between her and Robyn be removed to protect Robyn's family image. The judge frowned. And what about Meri's image? She asked, voice dripping with restrained fury. If one woman's truth must be buried for another's to shine, is that storytelling or manipulation? Robyn's voice was barely a breath. I was scared. Of what? Losing Kody, losing the audience, losing everything I built. And did that fear include removing Meri from her place in the family? A pause, a whisper. Yes. The sound that followed wasn't noise. It was disbelief turned physical. Christine gasped. Janelle whispered, I knew it. And Kody? He stood suddenly, his voice desperate. I didn't sign up for this circus. The judge's voice sliced the air. You signed up when you let her disappear. Sit down, Mr. Brown. The footage continued. Meri on a couch, crying quietly after a family meeting. A producer's voice asked, Do you feel like you belong anymore? Meri's reply came like prophecy. I feel like I'm being erased on purpose. Like someone's rewriting the story while I'm still living it. The judge shut off the screen, her tone grave. This court has now seen evidence of targeted manipulation, emotional sabotage, and public defamation. The defendant's conduct directly altered the plaintiff's personal and professional narrative. Robyn's lips trembled. The tears came, but no one moved to comfort her. Depending on further findings, the judge continued, this case may fall under fraud and financial misrepresentation statutes. Outside the courtroom, breaking news exploded. Hidden tape confirms Robyn's plot to remove Meri. Judge considers fraud charges. Inside, Meri sat perfectly still, the quietest warrior in the room. Kody walked past her toward the door, eyes on the ground. He couldn't look at her because deep down, he knew. He hadn't just failed her. He had helped erase her. But this time the ink was running out. In the hallway, Christine approached quietly. You did it, she whispered. Meri shook her head. No, I'm just getting started. Moments later, the judge's assistant approached Meri's attorney with a sealed envelope. There's another hidden tape, she whispered. This one involves Robyn and Kody, discussing Janelle's account. The room fell into an uneasy silence. This wasn't over. This was only part 1. 9:01 a.m., final hearing day. The courtroom filled again, heavier now, like the truth itself was taking up seats. Robyn looked wrecked, makeup smeared, her once perfect composure now cracked beyond repair. Kody sat beside her, stone-faced, arms crossed like a man who'd lost every argument but still refused to surrender his pride. Meri, poised and still, sat at the plaintiff's table, Christine and Janelle just behind her, silent witnesses to the reckoning. The judge entered. This court is now in session for closing statements in Brown versus Brown. Meri's attorney stood. His voice was calm, but every word carried weight. Your Honor, what we've shown is not just compelling, it's devastating. The defendant's own words prove an orchestrated pattern of exclusion, manipulation, and emotional destruction. Meri Brown did not come here seeking money. She came seeking recognition. She came to say, "You cannot erase me and expect me to stay silent." The room was silent except for Robyn's shaky breathing. Her attorney rose next, exhausted, eyes hollow. My client acted out of fear, not hatred. We ask for leniency. The judge didn't blink. Fear is not an excuse for deceit. Turning to Robyn, she asked, "Would you like to speak before I deliver my ruling?" Robyn staggered to her feet. Her voice cracked. I thought I was doing what was right. For my kids, for the show, for Kody. I didn't mean to destroy her. I just didn't know how to let her stay. The judge's face hardened. And yet you worked tirelessly to ensure she wouldn't. Robyn broke down, sobbing openly. But Meri remained composed. She had seen these tears before, on camera, edited for sympathy. But this time there was no script, no commercial break. Just truth. Tears without accountability, the judge said, are only water. And water doesn't erase what's written in ink. She lifted the final document. After reviewing over 40 hours of footage and 200 pages of evidence, this court finds in favor of the plaintiff, Meri Brown. Gasps erupted. Christine covered her mouth. Janelle whispered, "Finally." The judge continued. This ruling acknowledges emotional damage, public defamation, and business exclusion caused by the defendant. Robyn Brown is ordered to pay $34,000 in compensatory damages and $688,000 in punitive damages. Robyn fell back into her chair, sobbing harder. But the judge wasn't finished. I am also ordering a third-party audit of the Brown Family Trust and TLC royalties to investigate potential misappropriation. Christine's eyes met Janelle's. They both knew what that meant. Their turn was coming. The final blow came like prophecy. This court also orders that Meri Brown's name be reinstated in TLC's legal family documentation as a founding member, retroactive to 2010. When history is rewritten in secret, justice demands it be rewritten in public. Kody exploded. You're punishing us for drama, the judge's voice thundered. No, Mr. Brown, I'm punishing you for lies. He stormed out, Robyn reaching for him. Don't leave me, she sobbed. He pulled his arm free and walked away, without looking back. The gavel struck. This court is adjourned. Meri rose, no smile. No tears, just quiet power. Outside, a reporter shouted, Meri! Any comment? She turned, her voice steady. Justice. And when asked if Christine or Janelle planned to file their own suits, Janelle answered with a single sentence. We already did. Because every lie buried in someone else's silence eventually becomes evidence in someone else's case. Inside, Robyn sat alone. The tears kept coming, but the story had shifted. She hadn't just lost a case. She'd lost control of the narrative. The screen fades to black. Social media erupts. Chapter Justice for Meri. Robyn exposed. Kody walks again. TLC issues a statement. We are currently reviewing internal contracts and legal obligations regarding the Brown family. And in one haunting closing shot, Christine opens her inbox. A new anonymous email appears. A single video file. She clicks play. Robyn, Kody, a bank office. A document labeled Asset Division Plan 2020. Christine's eyes widen. This just got bigger, she whispers. Fade to black. Eyes widen. This just got bigger, she whispers. Fade to black.